Morning, everyone. It is what's today? Friday, May 11th, and just gonna jump in here and kind of continue some of the conversation we had last time about marriage and things like that. Again, I am in no way an expert. Um, I have learned a lot from past mistakes, so I do have that going for me as far as if someone asks, well, what authority do you have to speak about marriage? So today, on that note, today I would like to, I kind of want to go through some things that I know doesn't work. So instead of giving me a bunch of things like, hey, this is the secret sauce, this is the end all be all to a happy, peaceful, loving relationship, loving marriage. I want to talk about some stuff that I know for a fact will fight against that happy and peaceful and delightful, loving marriage. So the first thing is marriage is not a competition. And what do I mean by that? So too often when and it can be something that's completely unrelated. You have an argument because your coffee cup. You say something to your spouse who you had asked to wash your coffee cup. I'm just using this as an example. I don't know. Let's say you thought that your wife had put the coffee cup in the dishwasher the night before, or whatever. So next morning comes around, and you go to get your coffee cup, and there is no clean coffee cup, and you happen to mention that to your spouse. The- So too often, whenever someone confronts somebody, despite what the spirit is. So let's say it was even it was in the right spirit. It was like, hey, honey, I thought you um, had washed my coffee cup last night. Did I miss something or whatever? And then the other person would be like, it, when that can come across to them as you attacking them, that sort of thing. And that our first reaction anytime is to fight back. So anytime, hang on here, I hear a beeping in my car. Let me see what this beeping is for. I will be right back. Okay, now I feel dumb. It was just I left my blinker on, but you hear a strange beeping in the car you're not used to, and you want to figure out what it is. Anyway, so our first reaction when a our spouse confronts us about anything, despite how innocent or it might be, our first reaction is to fight back, to defend ourselves. Whatever it happens to be, whether it's a valid complaint or a valid issue or not, our first reaction is to fight back. And too often I hear, um, you know, things like, I asked you to clean off the kitchen table last night before you went to bed, and I get up this morning and it's still not cleaned off. And then the other one was like, well, what about all the other stuff that I do around here? Does none of that count? And um, you know, it becomes this competition, chalking up points. Well, I've done all of this, but you've only done this much in our relationship or our marriage. So I'm ahead of you. I'm better than you. If anything's wrong, it's your fault, or vice versa. So, that marriage is not a competition. There's no way that that ever works within a marriage. Even with my wife and I, those sort of things come up occasionally, and even in the best of marriages, that never works. Um, you know, Jill and I'll admit I'm not always the best at it, but we try to share the duties in our home. So first of all, we don't live in the 1940s anymore. Men can wash dishes. Men can do laundry. Men can vacuum the floor. You know, all of that. There's nothing like that. I mean, either way, there needs to be a balance in what happens in the house. First of all, so that so you don't even come across those issues of, well, I clean up this entire house. And what do? You come home from work and you sit in front of the TV all night, and I spend all evening cleaning dishes and doing the laundry and doing all this. Jill and I both work, so we both work the same number of hours. We both work full time, so we have to share the duties in the house. So if that's something you put in place up front, then that's what you got to do. Granted, in my house, I do the mowing, I do the outside work. I hate mowing, and I would never put my the quality of my mowing job to be very high, but I take care of the mowing, um, and in the most of the stuff outside. But in addition to that, though, I take care of the laundry. Again, not always the best quality, and up front, Jill and I discussed it, and I hate doing dishes. I despise doing dishes. Um, and she hates doing laundry. Now, neither one of us love laundry or love dishes, but I'll do laundry all day long, every day, before having to do dishes once a week. So we kind of decided up front that I would take care of the laundry, she would take care of the dishes. So those things for sure are our jobs. So I rarely take care of any dishes. Now, I need something clean. Obviously, I'm capable of washing a dish, and I'll do that. And I should never, I should never make a big deal about that. Again, it's not a competition. I could easily say, and I've been guilty of it, I must admit, um, of saying something to the effect of, "Well, I take care of all the laundry, and you can't even keep me a coffee cup clean." And you know what? That doesn't work. There's nothing about that works. So I mean, we're human. Even in the best of marriages, things like that happen. So, but again, my point of this is this never works. This competition, this I do this and you don't do that thing never works. So, what's the alternative to that? Like I said, first, divide up certain things. If there's certain things that's in your house that you're like, hey, you know what, I can do this, and this person I can do this, then great. As far as the rest of the house, I'm not the best cleaner, but I can sweep, I can mop, I can clean off the table, I can, straighten up clutter, I can do all of that. Um, you know, so whenever it comes time to like, hey, it's time to really clean the house and get things really clean, we try to get and do those things together. Um, so that's the first thing. Is up front, share the duty, so there isn't that competition. Um, what if, and the other thing about marriage in general is it's there's two people to it. For it to work well, both people have to want to make it work and have to work towards that. And one might say, well, I can't control my spouse. I can't make them do one thing or the other. And if I tell them something like this, come up to them and tell them this, they're going to think that I'm just attacking them because that's what we always do. That doesn't mean that you have to participate in that. Um, if someone, the first thing is, let's go back to the coffee cup incident, or in the case of my example, let's say laundry. Let's do it that way. So let's say, um, my my wife comes to me and says, "Hey, I thought you were gonna wash my purple shirt last night." Um, well, if that was really the case, take ownership of it. If she really asked you to wash her purple shirt and you said yes, I'll wash your purple shirt, and you didn't, I mean that's on you, right? Um, Granted, it hurts a little. I apply we have to apply those same principles in where we work. Take responsibility for take ownership of things, and that's the first thing, especially in that scenario where it's like, because oftentimes if I'm going to do a little laundry, I'll like, hey honey, is there anything in particular that you need washed? And she'll say, yes, I need this, that, or the other. Make sure that gets in tonight's laundry. Okay. So let's say I do that and I miss one of those things. First response is, you know what, you're right. You did mention that. I did forget. I'm really, really sorry. You know, if it's not too late, let's see if we can get it in the washer, get it washed real quick and all by itself. And I mean, you'd be surprised how quickly you can wash something. Even if you have to hand wash something, you can dry one item pretty quickly in a dryer. So, again, try to find an alternative. If there really was a mess up on your part, take ownership of it. That's the first thing. And then see if there's a resolution, um, you know, something that you can do. If it, if it was a case like, I'm sorry, honey, I must have missed that. Let's say in your mind, the conversation the night before, there was nothing mentioned about a purple shirt. Okay, our first reaction many times, like, well, you didn't tell me you wanted a purple shirt. Okay, at this point, you can't go back in time. You can't go to that moment in time and find out for sure if there was a conversation about a purple shirt. So, what should I do in that particular case? Because again, I can only control myself. One thing I could do is, I'm sorry, honey. I didn't hear you say anything about a purple shirt. Again, I'm so sorry. Again, take ownership of it. It may have not been your fault at all. It may have not been anything you did. She may have truly forgotten to mention the purple shirt. So what? You know, say, I'm sorry, honey. If you mentioned the purple shirt, I didn't hear it. I do apologize. Let me see if I can get it washed for you now. Or, I'm sorry, honey. Let's see if we can find something else for you to wear. Again, take ownership of it. You don't have to, like, because our first reaction is like, well, you didn't tell me. That's why it's not washed. You should have told me. Well, and then their response, I did tell you, and then it becomes this competition, this argument. So first thing is take ownership. Whether you remember the situation or not, take ownership of it. You know, I've been in management at work. I've been in management in my jobs for years, and one of the big things is take ownership. Whether it's your fault or not, if it's in your world, take ownership of it. Because you know what, that whole response of "I'm really sorry, honey, I must have missed you mentioning the purple shirt," um, is a you will there will not be it may not diffuse the situation every time, but you know what, it's gonna diffuse that situation a lot quicker, a lot more often than the fighting back, the well, you didn't tell me, you said you did, you didn't say, type of thing. So there you go. um, so that's, again, that's just one example, but you can apply that to many things. When it comes to, why didn't you do this or that, or how come this or that? Take ownership of it. You know, that's gonna go. That's gonna go a long ways. Um, Another thing that too many marriages, too many couples, too many spouses in general, is they're so concerned about themselves. And in your mind, you may not think that, but if you really think back to it, the last time you had a fight, last time you had a disagreement with your spouse, it really come down to you. If so, I've heard people say that, hey, a marriage needs to be 50-50, give and take, 50-50. And I, honestly, I had someone, or I don't know if it was a book or a sermon at church, or what it was, but either way, I had somebody say once, no, marriage is not 50-50. Marriage is 100% and 100%. And like, wait a minute, 100% and 100%, you can't have more than, so what's that mean? What that's talking about is I should go into every day wanting to give 100% of myself for my spouse. If if both spouses do that, man, your marriage is going to be the best thing you've ever had. Because if you're giving 100% to them and they're giving 100% to you, there's nothing lacking in that as far as what your spouse can do for you. Let's say you decide I'm gonna give 100% to my wife, to my spouse. Um, let's say they might say I'm only gonna get 50%. I'm only gonna give what I get. Something like that. Even if that's the case, if you're giving 100% to your spouse, there's gonna be a lot less fights because again, it takes two to fight. So again, if an argument happens, even if you know it's not your fault, if it's you know it's not your fault, if you're going to the mindset of hey, my job as a spouse, my job towards my spouse is to give 100% of myself for them. Doesn't matter what it is, your goal, your desire, what you want is to please your spouse. And enough of that, your spouse is going to start seeing it, and hopefully they'll come around to the same mentality. Um, so that's kind of two things I want to talk about today. Marriage is not a competition. If you ever come to some situation and the whole conversation is, yeah, but I do X, Y, and Z. Well, I do A, B, and C. You know, it's not a competition. Right there, your marriage is trying to be a competition. If you do 90% of everything around the house and your spouse does 5% or 10%, that's the math, yeah, 90 and 10, does 10% of the stuff around the house, it's not a competition. Doesn't mean that you don't need to have a conversation with them and say, hey, honey, I need some help with this or that. But it's not a competition. It's not I've scored this much and you've only scored this much. So therefore I win and you lose. It's not like that. It doesn't again, I'm not giving those people the 10% a pass. I'm just saying that conversation should not be a competition. A conversation with them saying, hey honey, I've got a lot of stuff going on, whether it's at work or around the house. Can you help me with X, Y, and Z? See, and that's another thing. Oftentimes, whenever a a spouse is on that 90% side, finally, has had enough and approaches the 10 percenter. Um, it's a blow up. It's an explosion. It's like, I do ask you to do nothing. I need you to help me. I need you to do more stuff around here. Okay, how about you be more specific? And that's what I say whenever, um, whenever you have those conversations, instead of the competition, say, hey, honey, um, I'm busy with this, that, and the other. Can you, um, you know, can you go give the kid a bath? Hey, honey, I'm doing these dishes. Can you sweep the living room for me? I'm not gonna be able to get this all done tonight. Can you go sweep the living room for me? Can you vacuum? Can you whatever? I mean, be specific about it and do it with the right attitude. I'm telling you, um, you're gonna get a lot more out of. You're gonna get your spouse, who you feel is not doing nearly enough, to do those things if you approach it in that way. Um, it's amazing how much tone plays into it. By just phrasing it as, "Hey, honey, I'm taking care of X. Can you go take care of Y for me? I really want to get both of these things done tonight, but I don't think I'm going to be able to because I don't have enough time to do both. Can you go do X for me?" Instead of, "Well, I'm in here taking care of these dishes, and you're just lounging around and doing nothing. Can't you get off your lazy bum and do something?" Yeah, you can definitely see the difference there. Um, and the other thing is don't pick a time when you know they're in the middle of something. Okay, so let's say your husband's a football fan. Okay, I don't watch football. And I think football still plays on Monday night and Thursday nights and Sunday. I don't know. If you're married to a football person, you know when football is, okay? So if you know it's about game time, and he usually watches the football game during this game time, that's probably not the best time to bring up something that needs to be done. Now, granted, if it's something like, hey, this has to get done, then that's a different story. Your husband should be able to give up the football game for you. But if it's just a matter of like, hey, I just need you to do some more, I just need some extra help around the house during or right as the football game is getting ready to start, is not the time to have that conversation. Same thing the other way around. If your wife is into the latest Hallmark Channel TV series, right before that show starts or right in the middle of that show is not the time to have a conversation about your coffee cup not getting washed or your clothes not getting clean or whatever it happens to be. You gotta pick your moments. You gotta pick your right times to have these conversations or ask for help. Now, if your spouse does nothing but sit all day in front of the TV, and there's never one of those moments, their favorite show is always on, or their favorite sports game is always on. That's, again, we're getting into areas that's got a lot more complicated, but at a very high level, very general area, general level, those are some pointers that I would throw out there. Um, Again, I don't have all the answers. I do have a lot of things that I know doesn't work. So I kind of wonder if I can give somebody else some help, um, from the things that I've experienced, then I've given back, and that's all I want to do. So, well, I'm going to wrap this one up. If you have any comments on these subjects, definitely leave them in the comments below, and I'll try to discuss them on a future video. If you like some of the stuff, subscribe, give me a like, all that good stuff. Anyway, I am about to work, so I'm going to jump off of here, and I will talk to you guys next time. Take care. Bye now.